Well, thank you so much for joining me on the World Vegan Travel podcast. I was so excited to get connected with you because diving is such an interesting pastime, passion thing that you can do when you're traveling that vegans should probably consider a little bit more if they haven't already. But before we get into diving on all of the ins and outs with that, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, maybe your vegan story, what you are doing in the vegan travel space?
So I have been a vegan for about 5 years now. I actually gave up fish first about 8, 9 years ago when I got into diving because you go in the ocean and these beautiful fish and creatures, and I was sad to see them ending up on the plate and a lot of fishing nets and pollution, and it's not something many people get to see. And so I kind of fell in love with the ocean there, and I worked my way up from open water diver, is the first level in PADI, and to advanced. In about 5, 6 years, I worked my way up to instructor. And the dive shop I trained at, worked at, I met a man, Brett, he's my partner, business partner, and he's also a vegan. We were talking about how when you go diving and you go to places, it's very common to have French fries and beer is an after diving thing. And while the beer is usually vegan, the and French fries maybe, not a lot of food in a lot of these places that's good food. Maybe a little head of lettuce and salad and things, and it's a shame because there is good local products, and there is good cuisines, and uh, mostly Southeast Asia where I've been living, in East Asia. And so we got together, and sadly, it was right before the virus, and we started this company to find and partner with liveaboards. You go on boats and tours. It's open water divers, beginners to advanced, to certain places in the world, to resorts and dive centers to find out if they're vegan. Is there any vegan divers? Is the resort eco-friendly? You'd be surprised how a lot of resorts and places aren't that eco-friendly with the single use. And so we've been, over the last couple years, kind of changing a little bit the plan for the company. But now we're able to get out and travel the world, and we're visiting dive centers and hotels, and to make sure the quality of the food is there. Because a lot of times, it's a being a vegan, everybody knows, like, are you sure this is vegan? Was this cooked? So we have to make sure all of this, and that's what we're doing, and partnering up with different places. And we've had some companies reach out to us to, we want to join, become vegan. How do we do that? So we've been doing a little bit of consultation services, especially in Indonesia, what I've been doing last couple weeks since I moved back here.
You are actually in Indonesia right now. So whereabouts are you?
I am in the island of Bali, in a smaller village in the northeast called Ahmed. That's where I am diving and free diving. I'm an instructor with both.
Oh, wow, you're a free diver too. Wow. That's amazing. This is such an interesting idea. I remember when I became certified, I got my PADI open water certification in the early 2000s, and I was just vegetarian. And like I think many people, I didn't do any diving again for quite a few years. Just the opportunity never presented itself. And it wasn't until after I became vegan, and coincidentally, actually in Ahmed, in the east coast of Bali, that I actually went again. So it was like my second lot of dives. And I will say that the experience was much, much more profound than it was as a non-vegan. Just the awe and respect and excitement I had for what I was actually looking at was multiplied so much in intensity.
I not pushy. I don't push people into veganism, but I always bring it into my courses and talking about things and ocean waste and plastic. 70% of the world's covered in water, and most people never get to see it. So it's something I do focus on and bring up in the courses, and bring a bag along to pick up waste and things, just to set a good example for other people. Talk about the fishing industry. Half the ocean's plastic is nets and discarded fishing equipment. And it's very profound to see this with animals biting plastic, and you come up to the surface in some areas and the rain happened and there's just a thick layer. Um,
Yeah, I remember one time I was in Jakarta, and I used to live in Jakarta, and I did a boat ride out, and I think they're called the Thousand Islands, just
mhm.
outside of Jakarta. And we took a boat from just at the mouth of the river, or about a kilometre or so in from the mouth of the river. And I was just absolutely horrified at just how much plastic waste. Now, this didn't happen to be fishing waste. It was due to sufficient garbage collection, but it was just pretty horrific just how much plastic there was there in at the mouth of this river that was going out into the ocean. All right, so I know we really want to talk about the benefits of diving, especially as a vegan, and how this is a really great way to travel. But for people who don't know anything about it, like, how do most people start this hobby, this passion, and sort of grow with it and travel with it? How?
Cool. Yeah, I'd love to answer that. Um, it's people are on holiday often, and they're curious, and they see everybody else kind of trying to, oh, what's that? That could be interesting. And for a lot of people, they think it's difficult, and there's the barrier is physical capabilities. So they sign up for a discovery dive, it's called. It's just a half a day to a full day trial dive. We take you to the pool, make sure you're comfortable, teach you some skills, and then we take you in the water for the discovery dive. You're a salesman as a diver, so you're kind of like, okay, you did great. Do you want to do the course? And the course can be done in about 3 days properly. And so people usually go from there. That's the open water course, where you can go down to 18 meters, you're certified, or 60 some feet with that. And you do usually around 4 to 5 dives, depending on what you'd like to do. And then you're certified anywhere you go in the world. Thankfully, Patty is getting rid of the plastic cards after many years of fighting and complaints. I have some friends writing petitions, because they used to send you a plastic card every single certificate and charge you more for the digital. Now they give you the digital. So thankfully, they're moving in the right direction. Um, there's not just Patty, there's SSI and NAUI and all sorts of other different organizations. But I would say, if you're going to start diving, make sure you choose a reputable, preferably vegan, dive shop. Do a little bit of research, talk to them, and just make sure it's done correctly, because it's not inherently dangerous, but you do want to be trained by a professional, and make sure everything is safe.
What is it that most people are really scared about? Because I will say that the first time I went diving, just hearing my breath all around me was just a little bit off-putting. One time I did get a little bit fearful, but otherwise, apart from that, I wasn't too scared. And I'm a little bit of a cautious diver now. Like, I'm never sort of being too blasé. Like, I'll stick very close to absolutely everybody, and I'm very aware of that. But it is a little bit scary for some people. What are some of the fears that some people have, and how can these fears be addressed?
Well, besides breathing, which everybody holds their breath, which is quite an issue and can be dangerous, people forget to breathe. It sounds very odd, but like, I, for one, athlete runner, and I nose breathe. So when I started scuba diving, it was very weird for me only breathing through my mouth. And like you said, you hear your breath, you're underwater, everything's super quiet. All you can hear is your breath and maybe some bubbles or a noise of like tapping of some sorts. Oddly, that I would say the biggest fear, probably sharks. Everyone was always scared of sharks and something's going to eat them. I've seen hundreds of them all over, different types of sharks, and I've never had anything even remotely an issue. Probably the thing that's attacked me underwater would be Nemo, the clownfish. Like, they're very aggressive. They'll come by, and like, if you get near them, they're usually in soft, these beautiful soft corals. They have a mucus around their skin to live in them. But you get over to look at them, and they'll come at and like hit your mask. And so Nemo is much more aggressive than your average shark. Um, I'd say those are two: wildlife and breathing. How people overcome it is the first part of your training is in a pool. So we make sure that you can see everything, you're in a pool, and you get comfortable before going in the open water. We don't just throw you out there in the depths before you're comfortable.
Yeah, I would really advise if you have the opportunity, give it a try because it really is such a special experience. And maybe that's what we should talk about now is like why should we be going out into the ocean and spending time on a diving holiday and exploring the ocean when, you know, there's plenty of stuff that we can see above water much more easily without having to do a course or do anything special in that area. So if you were going to persuade somebody to do a dive holiday, what might you say to them?
I said before, 70% of the world is water, so it's good that you can see other things. The big thing I could say, it's eye-opening. Like there's just so much stuff, and it varies from place to place. Like we were just talking about, you can dive with whale sharks. When I lived in the Philippines, and I could see these massive whale sharks, 8 meters long, almost 25 feet, just passing by me. You could never even imagine this. Even an elephant is not comparable in the water because it's so gracefully passing you by. And then you have things called frogfish that are the size of your nail, and they're beautiful red and green colors. And the wildlife is just it. We're on land. I've been attacked by a monkey before. I've lived in Alaska, and like moose are quite a bit dangerous animals. Like there's stuff on land I'm a bit afraid of. In the water, everything's just kind of hanging out. You're just they're in their house, and it's just kind of sing around, and it's beautiful. And the sights, let's say for Bali, for instance, you come here on a trip, you dive, say 5 days on a 7-8 day trip. Even if you go longer, there's hiking, there's great food. Bali has world class vegan food in a couple different cities. There's just other activities usually to do. There's very rarely just diving to do. But if there is, I mean, there's a lot of variety to that as well.
It really is special, and they have some really cool wrecks as well in Ahmed, for example, don't they? So you can go and check out these ferries, which or sunken boats, which have become just this incredible habitat for animals. Like it's really quite special to see.
The Liberty wreck is the one in Limben, and then there's the Japanese wreck down here from World War II, I believe. There's a couple around here you can get to pretty easily.
Oh,
There's also a ferry boat that sunk recently during a typhoon, and so you can go through that as well.
you've been diving and free diving for many, many years. Are you able to tell us maybe some of the most incredible, spectacular things? Of course, the more diving you do, the more likely it is you're going to be able to see something special. So can you share with us maybe some incredible things that you have seen while diving?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned before, my favorite thing in the world is the whale shark. Very rare, and you can't really be guaranteed to see one. There is some places in the Philippines where they feed them, and it's not the most above board operations, but you can still see them. I was just there looking at, actually, it was a Nemo fish with a student, and I hear another turned around, and it was literally a meter away. They're just passing by, and if someone didn't tell me, I wouldn't have known. Me and the student, I just grabbed the student's back and turned them. They're like, yeah, Rex. I dove in Egypt. Dahab is a freediving and scuba town. It's where I became a freediving instructor. There's an old wreck, the Thistlegorm, in the middle of the Red Sea, and it's huge. And there's sharks around it and black tips, I believe, or white tips around it. And it's about 30, 40 meters deep. The wrecks are really neat because they're not only just a ship, but it's just a habitat and biome for so much life and corals and things. As long as you're respectful and don't bump into anything, it stays pretty preserved under the water. Speaking of Bali, sorry, the last one I would say, the manta rays. These giant manta rays, 6 meters long, and you dive down 15 meters, not even 15, and they'll just swim. There's a cleaning station where they come to feed and clean themselves, and there'll be 5 to 10 just swimming about above you gracefully and just no effort in moving.
You've kind of described, I guess, sort of more tropical kind of diving situations.
Hmm.
Have you done any diving in more temperate places? For example, I lived close to Vancouver at the tip of the Howe Sound. And even though the water is quite cold, but there is some actually really incredible diving where you can see like glass sponges and things like that. So I guess my question is, have you ever done any other kind of like more temperate diving? Maybe people don't have tropical diving close to them, or they don't like the tropics, for example. Have you ever done that, and what's that like?
I've done a bit. I'm a bit, we could say I'm weak. I get cold. Anything, anything below 25 Celsius, but I get a little cold. But Dahab in the winter gets down to 17, 18 Celsius. I have dove in Cyprus in the Mediterranean. There's a huge wreck there. The water's about 20 degrees. It's get a little bit chilly there for me. Um, and there is a lot of other different wildlife, like off the coast of California, you can see, and towards you, kelp forests and seals and a lot of mammals, interactions with things. Great Lakes, there's a lot of wrecks, more freshwater and things. Yeah, I haven't done too much cold diving. It requires a little more gear, and a lot more planning, and so that's why I try to keep it simple with a lot of my things, and it tends to be a little more expensive as well to get prepared for all of that courses. Um, it is one thing to consider if people are thinking about doing it. Maybe try a tri dive in cold water. A course, including flights, a lot of times is actually cheaper in Philippines, Indonesia, to fly quite far from other places, do a course, stay for a week or two, and it's cheaper than you would do a course in a lot of Western countries, and just as safe and just as fun. Yeah.
I did my course in CoPP just about a year and a half or so before the tsunami in 2021 or something like that. And I just did it on my week off. I was tour leading in Thailand at the time, and I just decided to go down there on a week off and just do my open water certification. And then a few years later, when I was also living in Thailand again, I did the advanced diving. I had done very little diving between those two certifications except in Bali, and it was really quite reasonably priced, and you can often get packages, as this is something you do, I think, where it will include like all accommodation and food and several dives as well, correct?
Yes, that's quite a common model. You'll come for, I don't know, let's say a week, 10 days, and you get the first, if you sign up for the second course, people usually do them back to back. It's quite common. It takes about 5 days, 6 days if you take a day off. And then you get discount on the rent of the place for doing the dive course. And sometimes, like we have a dive center we worked with recently, Malasti Dive Center up in Tulamben. And the people got, I don't know, was it 5 dives? And they stayed for like 3 days, and they had all-inclusive food for the breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and snacks, and that type of thing. Is yeah, the model that usually works with this type of thing.
Now, I know that you work with dive resorts and on liverboards as well. So can you explain maybe what like a day in the life of this kind of vacation would be, and maybe drawing attention to the differences between liverboard and staying in a resort? Because I will say that until I had experienced this, I really didn't kind of understand how it all worked logistically. So what is a day in the life like on
Okay.
one of these kinds of experiences?
So we'll do resort first. And depending on how many are dives, I would say probably people dive 3 times a day. 2 to 3 times a day would be quite common, maybe more if they feel like it. A night dive per se. So you wake up. Divers are not the most rushy people on earth. So wake up leisurely at 7, 8 o'clock, have your coffee, have your breakfast. The nice thing about scuba diving is you don't have to starve yourself, and you're not a super intense sport. You get tired, but you can eat all the time. So you have breakfast, do a dive briefing. They would explain to you where you're going, what you're doing for the day, the dive site, the safety plan, and then you do your first dive. Usually the deepest dive is first, so say a wreck first, and then come back and you have a surface interval between the dives. So is to get rid of nitrogen gas for safety. So an hour, maybe two between the dives, probably about an hour. And you do your second dive. Snacks between, nothing heavy, but probably little snacks, maybe some more coffee. I like to nap. That's my little nap time again between dives. And then you probably head back to the beach or the resort, whatever you're doing. If someone wants to do an afternoon dive, they could do that. Most boats and things will offer, they'll give you two and then a discounted third dive on the way back. Everybody usually takes it unless you're not feeling well because it's quite cheap and you're already out there, so why not? And then you come back and then night dive if you're going to do that. And that's usually at dusk. You would go out while it's still light. And so it would change over so you can see things changing. Particularly in safety-wise, it's much better to go out at dusk. And then come back. It's the evening, have food, and then do it all again the next day. Usually they don't wake up too early unless it's some special dive. Like we said, the Liberty Wreck, there's some fish that come at sunrise. So sometimes people will get there really early for these giant schools of fish, but that's not super common. Usually the dive guide, scuba dive master diver, yeah, will be a local. And so they are usually more relaxed than the Western person going out. Where a liveaboard is quite different. A liveaboard is just diving with all of that. Where you can take a day off on land. A liveaboard, you kind of really want to get your money's worth. And so they'll have dives scheduled 4 to 5 dives a day. They will have a morning dive. They will have 2 more, 3 more, and then an evening dive most of the time. You don't have to join them all, but they will have 4 to 5 dives per day on those. And they'll have chefs on board. There's a dive company that we're working with, Palau Siren, master liveaboards. They have very talented chefs, and they started having a vegan option recently. And my partner Brett was working with them, and so we kind of pushed them forward to that. And so now you can have all the vegan food on the boat and the liveaboards, but you are on the boat for 3 to 5 days. You can do longer liveaboards, but they're usually around 5 days, depending on the location. Maybe a day more for travel there and back. If you're going to the Galapagos or you're going to Raja Ampat, because Indonesia is another famous place. Pristine, clear waters and amazing wildlife. So 7 days.
That's always been something I've been a little bit hesitant about on liveaboards, is that, you know, you're basically stuck with the food that they will give you. Whereas if you are in like a resort town, which has lots of different dive places and maybe other resorts and what have you and hotels, there's plenty of other places to eat. So the fact that you are making sure that vegans can have delicious food when they're diving is just so amazing. Where is your favorite spot to dive in the world?
I might say here. There's access to the beach for scuba diving here is macro, looking for little things. I like to spend an hour, maybe solo diving if I do that, just looking for little things, hanging out underwater, not deep, just searching for the little creatures. But then I can go to a wreck. The gillies, Gili Trawangan, Gili Minnow, Gili Air over there. And there's also some really good diving over there. Nusa Penida is also a boat ride away. It's where the manta rays are. Nusa Penida, Lembogan. There's a lot of options here. The Lembogan Strait comes through, and there's cooler waters, and it's faster, and so a lot of plankton and bigger things. We'll go over there, some sharks and different stuff. I also like the option here for freediving. I have access to depth. You can get 50, 60, 70, 80 meters diving for easily off the shore. Or you can go to Gili Trawangan. My friend owns a freediving shop over there. The first one's in Indonesia, Freedive Gili, and they have a vegan restaurant there, and as well, and vegetarian restaurant. You go out in a boat for freedive. It has both of my hobbies here, and there's also hiking. I don't just love diving, so I can run, hike, dive, do everything here, eat
You are making me miss Bali so much. It really is just such a great destination for vegans. Just the food is great, the nature is great. Something I wanted to ask you is whether people need a lot of gear to get started, or is it something that they can rent? Like, how does all of that work? Because I think people think that it might be a little bit like skiing, where you have to have a certain amount of equipment and it seems like really, really pricey. So, and of course, difficult to carry when you're traveling.
So, no, you don't need really any gear. I always recommend having a dive computer just for safety. If you're starting out, you don't need anything. Don't worry about it. If you like it, then you could purchase, I would say, a dive computer, decent one, $200-300, a mask, and a set of fins. It's basically the things that I had starting out for years. Like you said, I didn't really have much just besides a dive computer and rent gear everywhere that you go. That's not an issue. They usually have quite quality gear, and I always recommend doing that because you can try different gear, see which things you like. And maybe you buy a mask, then you buy a BCD, the air, and you can buy parts at a time with something that you like. And it may be an upfront investment, but this stuff lasts 10, 15 years. It's a very sturdy things. If you're doing liveaboards, most people will bring their own gear for basically on the holidays and things. Nobody really, I would say nobody, but it's much more common to show up to a dive town and rent the gear. It's quite affordable, $15, $20. Maybe rent the gear for a day, maybe. You probably get discounts the more you dive, and if you stay with the resort and that type of thing.
I can't really imagine a opportunity where you would get to be so up close and personal with such incredible animals for such a reasonable price. Actually, you know, when I consider the cost of like going to see the gorillas in Rwanda or going on a safari, for example, versus seeing these incredible creatures that we've just only ever seen on documentaries and being able to get fairly close to them. Sometimes they'll even come and see what you're all about as well. Just to have this incredible interaction with wildlife and seeing them in their natural habitat really is so inspiring. I just absolutely want to book a dive holiday right now, just talking to you.
Awesome. Yeah, you should come back to Indonesia. Becoming rainy season in January, February, but other than that, fish are still there. They like the cloudy days anyway, so a little wet on land, but I like that.
That's true. As long as the visibility is good, it doesn't really matter on the weather. I think a lot of people feel overwhelmed about booking a dive holiday, particularly maybe a vegan dive holiday, so they should just definitely check out what it is that you do. So if somebody is interested in diving or vegan diving, or maybe learning to dive and they would like your help and support with that, what exactly would they need to do, and where would be maybe a good first stop of place to go?
Okay. Again, a lovely question. I would say go to the site first, Infinite Blue Dive Travel. And you can see the different options and sites and everything that we're working on. As I mentioned before, the site is a work in progress as we're making sure these places are vegan. We're getting to them. We're adding places. Most of the places are in Southeast Asia. We have some in the Galapagos and South America. Most of them are based over here. We wanted to do one region at a time so we could do quality control. I can go to them, or Brett can get to them and make sure it meets our standards and quality. If you do want to contact us at infinitebluedivetravel.com. It's on the website. You can just type it in there. You'll see a little chat box if you'd like to send us a message. It's me and Brett, so you'll get one of us, Happy Vegans, to answer any of your questions and help you out with any needs, from what airlines, visas you need, anything like that. Like Indonesia offers a 30-day visa on arrival, and 60 days you can renew it. So you can come here for 60 days basically for $80 US. As for places, I would recommend Philippines is one of our favorite ones, Darwin. Completely vegan resort made from recycled, environmentally sustainable materials. And they have bakery and outlets in the town.
Wow.
Another one, Dive into Lembe. And this is my partner's, one of his pet projects and things he's been working on, and directly involved with this resort. We know the quality control, and they have a 2-week vegan menu. So you can have different meals every single day for 2 weeks. If you stay longer, then yeah, you make it a repeat. But for 2 weeks, we have set up that. So you're not eating the same food, which can be an issue some places. The food is delicious in Indonesia. Don't get me wrong, but you kind of some different things, burgers to maybe the pizza you want, or not just Indonesian food all the time. So yeah, those are the two places I would recommend. Or there's liveaboards for people that are seasoned divers. Stop over the website and shoot us a message. Tell us you heard about us in the podcast, and yeah, we'd love to help you out.
Yeah, really urge absolutely everyone listening to this to consider diving as a really great way to travel. I know a lot of people fall in love with diving and then they end up working and living overseas, and I think this is probably what you did, traveling around the world as dive masters, as diving instructors. What an incredible way to see this underwater environment that we don't normally see, and to travel around the world. I want to thank you so much for joining me on the World Vegan Travel Podcast. I am so excited. I am definitely going to try and get some sort of diving in the next 12 months if I possibly can. Before we say goodbye, tell us again your Instagram handles and all of that stuff so that people can get out their phones and follow you right now.
We just got the Instagram up and going. Everything is Infinite Blue Dive Travel. For the Instagram, IFB Dive Travel. It's quite a bit to write. So IFB Dive Travel on Instagram. Facebook, Infinite Blue Dive Travel. The website, infinitebluedivetravel.com. Working on getting a lot more materials, and we're going to have some walkthroughs and photos of the resorts as we get them, and so you can see the diving and the food as well. But if you have any questions or you're looking to go somewhere, please just shoot us a message and we'd be happy to find something. I've been in the business for a little over 10 years. My partner's been in the business for almost 25 years. So we have connections all over the world in different places that even if they're not on the website, we'll be able to try and help you with something.
Amazing. So much for joining me, Teagan.
Thank you. It was great to be on your podcast, and I really appreciate it.